what control freak really means in love. Imagine this. You meet someone, and they tell you, "I've got your back." The reassurance and safety in their words make everything feel solid and secure. It's like having a shield around you, a sense of peace that nothing can shake. But then, something shifts. You wake up one day to realize that 6 months into your relationship, you need permission just to order a coffee. That bewildering shift from feeling completely safe to suddenly feeling watched and judged happens so subtly that at first you don't even notice. The controller doesn't shout or scream. They don't slam doors or demand total dominance. No, they do something far more insidious. They start making decisions for you, little by little, until you're unsure of your autonomy. A study in 2023 by the University of Georgia showed that nearly 40% of couples report within the first 18 months of romance, one partner demanding final say over everyday choices. Now, when we think about controlling behavior, we often picture loud confrontations, ultimatums, or anger. But the truth is far more subtle. It often shows up quietly, behind closed doors, in the form of small comments and unspoken rules. It's the gentle steering of your decisions, your choices, your time. And here's the real kicker. The person doing the controlling, the one so desperately trying to guide every little part of the relationship, isn't some power-hungry villain. No, they're terrified, absolutely petrified. They're living in a state of constant vigilance, scanning for danger like an alarm system that's always on. Love, in their world, isn't safe. It's too vulnerable, too unpredictable. So, they try to control it, to hold on to it tightly. But in doing so, they strangle the very thing they cherish most. Today, we're going to break down the layers of fear, insecurity, and vulnerability that drive this behavior. By the end, you'll know exactly why the controller's grip tightens as they grow closer to their partner, and how that very grip can lead to the breakdown of the relationship they're trying so desperately to protect. Whether you're the one being controlled or the one doing the controlling, this understanding can help you break free from the heart-wrenching cycle that often takes root in these dynamics. The hidden anxiety loop. Let's dive deeper into the anxiety that fuels this kind of behavior. Imagine a smoke detector in a house where someone has burnt toast every single morning for years. Over time, that smoke detector becomes hypersensitive, always beeping, even when there's the slightest trace of smoke. Now, even if you move into a pristine new home, the smoke detector is still on high alert, ready to go off at the faintest whiff of danger. This is what it's like for someone who constantly needs control. Their nervous system is on edge. They're always looking for signs of danger, whether there's any real threat or not. For the controller, every little deviation from their perceived plan triggers that alarm. If their partner books a trip without consulting them first, it feels like a red flag. If their partner texts an ex-coworker, even about something innocent, it sets them off. Even more tragically, if their partner seems too happy, they panic. Why? Because happiness signals change. Change, to someone in the controller's mindset, is a threat. If things are too good, it's only a matter of time before they fall apart. If their partner is too independent, it means they could leave. This is what's called a hidden anxiety loop. The controller acts on the belief that if they don't manage everything, they'll lose the relationship. So, they subtly tighten their grip, making a comment, asking a question, adjusting plans to restore a sense of control. And when their partner reacts, even with a subtle pushback, the controller's deepest fear is confirmed. See? I almost lost them. My control was justified. I need to hold on tighter. This creates a vicious cycle. The more the controller tries to hold on, the more their partner resists. The tighter the grip, the further the relationship begins to deteriorate. How this shows up day to day. The anxiety loop doesn't show up as loud explosions. It's not about dramatic outbursts or screaming matches. No, it's in the 1,000 tiny cuts, the little things that start to chip away at a relationship's foundation. The controller might start by micromanaging plans. It could look like this. Let's leave an hour earlier to avoid the traffic, when you know the timing would have been fine. It might show up in a subtle critique of your clothes. Why don't you wear the blue one? It really suits you better, even though you were perfectly happy in the outfit you picked. It could even be as simple as questioning your relationships. Maybe you should spend less time with your friends. I don't think they have your best interests at heart. The worst part, these actions are usually disguised as concern. It's not about controlling for the sake of power or dominance. The controller isn't inherently evil, they're afraid. They're afraid of losing control, of being abandoned, of experiencing the same chaos that they've encountered in their past. Their behavior is born out of a deep-seated fear of being left behind. For them, controlling everything becomes their way of trying to stay safe. They don't want to hurt their partner, but in trying to protect themselves, they end up suffocating the very relationship they're trying to preserve. The tragic irony, at the heart of controlling relationships lies a tragic, painful irony. The controller believes, deeply and genuinely, that if they can manage every aspect of the relationship, if they can guide every decision, every action, every interaction, they'll be safe. They believe that by controlling their partner, their environment, their every move, they can protect themselves from the very thing they fear the most, abandonment. In their minds, if they can keep everything tightly bound together, nothing can fall apart. They think that if they can simply ensure that every detail is accounted for, nothing will surprise them, nothing will hurt them. And, above all, no one will ever leave. It seems logical. It seems like a reasonable, even protective, approach to love. But here's the crushing truth. Love isn't something you can solve with logic. You can't control it like a math problem. You can't just put every emotion in its place and expect it to thrive. Relationships, by their very nature, are unpredictable. They require space to breathe, freedom to grow, and trust to flourish. But the more tightly you hold on to them, the more you try to micromanage every aspect, the more you actually suffocate them. It's like trying to protect a plant by keeping it inside a box. You may think you're helping it, but in truth, you're denying it the sunlight it needs to thrive. University of Tennessee researchers conducted a compelling study that uncovers this heartbreaking paradox. Over 5 years, they observed 164 couples and found something that completely challenged the conventional wisdom about relationships. They discovered that controlling behavior, what they termed partner regulation, was a stronger predictor of breakup than things like conflict frequency, financial strain, or even communication issues. Let that sink in for a moment. It wasn't the arguments that caused the breakup. It wasn't the financial strain or the lack of communication. It was the constant, quiet, relentless effort to control. What makes this finding even more tragic is that many people in controlling relationships are convinced that their actions are protecting the love they hold so dearly. They think that by keeping everything in their hands, by micromanaging every move, they are preventing disaster. But in reality, they're pushing their partner away. They're creating the very situation they fear most, an eventual loss of the relationship. It's a subtle yet powerful form of self-sabotage. The tighter the grip, the more the relationship loses its foundation. Autonomy, as it turns out, is not just a luxury in a relationship, it's essential. It's as vital as air for a living organism. Without it, love wilts. Without it, the relationship suffocates. The more the controller tries to manage everything, the more they destroy the very thing they're trying to protect. It's an agonizing paradox because, in the controller's mind, they are only trying to prevent themselves from getting hurt. They believe that by controlling every situation, they can avoid the pain of loss. But ironically, the harder they grip, the more likely they are to lose what they fear losing the most. The irony is also deepened by the fact that the controller usually has no idea they are causing this damage. They don't see their behavior as controlling, at least not in the traditional sense. They don't think of themselves as tyrants or manipulators. They see themselves as protectors, as caretakers. They see their actions as necessary, as keeping their partner and their relationship safe. It's this belief, this misunderstanding, that makes the irony all the more tragic. The person trying to protect the relationship is, in fact, the one most likely to destroy it. The road back to trust, rebuilding trust in a relationship, is not a simple task. It is one of the most difficult emotional journeys a couple can undertake, especially after one partner has been controlling or manipulative. The road to trust can feel long, painful, and often uncertain. It's important to remember that trust is not something that can be rebuilt overnight. It's a gradual process, like restoring a fragile structure, brick by brick. It requires patience, vulnerability, and a willingness to confront the painful truths about how the relationship has been affected. The first step on this road is acknowledgement. Both partners need to acknowledge the damage that's been done. This means recognizing the controlling behaviors, the emotional manipulation, and the way that these actions have eroded the trust between you. For the controller, this can be especially difficult because it requires humility and a willingness to face the harm that has been caused. It's easy to justify controlling behavior, to tell yourself that you were only acting out of love or fear. But this doesn't make the impact any less real. Acknowledging the harm is the first step in healing. Once you have acknowledged the damage, the next step is to set clear boundaries. This is crucial for both partners, but especially for the person who has been controlled. Setting boundaries means reestablishing your right to make decisions, to express your opinions, and to maintain your independence without fear of retribution. It's not about drawing lines out of spite or anger, but about protecting your emotional and mental health. Boundaries also give both partners a framework to work within, so that they can rebuild a sense of safety in the relationship. Trust can also be rebuilt by fostering open and honest communication. Both partners need to feel that they can express their needs, their fears, and their desires without being judged, manipulated, or criticized. This communication must be done without the fear of triggering emotional attacks or silent treatment. For the person who has been controlling, learning to listen without interrupting or offering solutions is crucial. Trust is rebuilt when both people feel heard and understood. In addition to communication, empathy is key in rebuilding trust. It's important to not only understand your partner's emotions, but also to be compassionate about their pain. When both partners can meet each other in a place of empathy, the cycle of control begins to break. This doesn't mean excusing hurtful behavior, but it's about understanding the motivations behind those actions. Empathy creates the emotional safety that both partners need to heal. When professional help is critical, while there are many steps that both partners can take on their own to rebuild trust and restore balance in the relationship, sometimes professional help is absolutely necessary. Controlling behaviors often stem from deeply ingrained patterns of fear, insecurity, and past trauma. These issues cannot always be resolved by willpower alone. They require expert guidance to untangle and heal. If you or your partner are feeling emotionally overwhelmed, unable to manage anxiety or stress, or if there's a deep sense of chronic dread, therapy is critical. Emotional stress, physical symptoms like chronic insomnia, or issues such as frequent headaches and stomach pains are red flags that the emotional toll of controlling behavior is too much to bear alone. Therapy can help both individuals process these emotional burdens and reframe their perceptions and responses. One of the most important aspects of therapy in this context is addressing the root causes of controlling behavior. For the controller, therapy can help them explore their attachment issues, childhood wounds, or emotional trauma that may have led to their need to control. It's a place to uncover why they feel the need to manage every aspect of the relationship and what they are afraid of losing. Therapy allows the controller to understand that their need for control is an attempt to manage their anxiety, not an act of love. For the person who has been controlled, therapy can help them rebuild their self-trust. Constant emotional manipulation can make someone feel powerless, as though they are at the mercy of their partner's whims. Therapy can help them rediscover their autonomy and rebuild their sense of self. It's a place where they can process the trauma of living in a controlled environment and begin to reassert their needs and desires in a healthy way. Couples therapy, such as emotionally focused therapy, EFT, or the Gottman method, is especially helpful for partners trying to rebuild trust. These methods teach couples to communicate more effectively, create deeper emotional bonds, and break free from destructive behavior patterns. In couples therapy, both partners learn how to be vulnerable, how to engage in healthy conflict, and how to support each other's growth without feeling threatened. Therapy isn't just for resolving issues. It's for learning how to connect on a deeper level. The exit ramp, leaving a controlling relationship, is one of the hardest decisions anyone will ever make. The idea of walking away from someone you've invested time, love, and energy into can feel unbearable. But sometimes, walking away is the only choice that preserves your mental and emotional health. If you've tried everything, setting boundaries, communicating openly, seeking support, and nothing changes, it's time to recognize that leaving might be the healthiest option for both of you. The exit ramp is often an act of self-preservation. It's about recognizing that your emotional well-being, your sense of self, and your future are more important than staying in a relationship that is causing you harm. The person who is controlling may not understand why you're leaving, or they may try to manipulate you into staying. But this decision is about you protecting your own peace, autonomy, and safety. For some, leaving may feel like failure, like they haven't tried hard enough or haven't loved enough. But the truth is, staying in a relationship that is consistently unhealthy isn't a sign of love, it's a sign of codependence. It's staying in a dynamic that keeps you small, keeps you silenced, and keeps you emotionally drained. Leaving is an act of love for yourself. It is a way to give yourself the opportunity to heal, to rediscover who you are outside of the controlling relationship. When making the decision to leave, it's important to set clear boundaries. You don't owe your partner an explanation beyond, "This relationship is no longer healthy for me." Don't get caught in long debates or attempts to explain why you're leaving. They may try to guilt you, manipulate you, or promise to change. But once you've made the decision, stick to it. Leaving a controlling relationship requires mental clarity, and it's essential to stay firm in your decision. Safety should always come first, particularly if the situation has escalated to emotional or physical abuse. Create a safety plan to ensure you leave with your essential belongings and documents. If necessary, seek legal protection through a restraining order or protection order. Empathy without excuses. Empathy without excuses means recognizing the emotional pain that fuels a person's controlling behavior, without excusing or enabling it. This nuanced understanding is vital for healing, both for the controller and the person being controlled. In relationships marked by control, it's common for the controlling partner to have deep-seated fears, insecurities, and past traumas that lead them to use control as a coping mechanism. These fears, while valid and understandable, do not justify the behavior. Empathy allows us to see the person behind the behavior. It allows us to understand that the controller might be acting out of a desperate desire to avoid abandonment or loss. However, empathy cannot mean tolerating harmful actions. Understanding someone's fears doesn't mean accepting their abusive behavior. This distinction is critical. You can offer compassion for their struggles, but you must also set firm boundaries and hold them accountable for their actions. For the controller, empathy is about acknowledging that their fears and insecurities have impacted their partner. It's about recognizing that their need to control is an expression of anxiety, not an act of love. Empathy allows them to realize that their fear of losing their partner has caused harm, and that they must own their behavior if they want to rebuild the relationship. For the person who has been controlled, empathy is about understanding that their partner's controlling behavior isn't personal. It's a reflection of their partner's own wounds. However, this empathy must be balanced with self-respect and self-protection. Recognizing the controller's fears does not mean sacrificing your own well-being. Empathy without excuses means honoring both your partner's struggles and your own need for respect and freedom. The healing journey. The healing journey, whether you're the controller or the controlled, is a path filled with self-reflection, growth, and sometimes painful realizations. For both partners, the road to healing is about rediscovering individual identities, learning to set healthy boundaries, and rebuilding trust. Healing doesn't mean erasing the pain of the past, but rather learning how to live with it in a way that leads to growth, resilience, and freedom. For the person who has been controlled, healing begins with reclaiming autonomy. If you've spent years living under someone else's thumb, your first step is learning to make decisions for yourself again. This can be incredibly difficult because controlling relationships often erode your self-confidence and self-trust. But through small acts of decision-making, choosing your own clothes, setting your own schedule, asking for what you need, you'll begin to rebuild your sense of self. Therapy and support groups can help you process the emotional wounds that come from being controlled and help you find your voice again. For the controller, healing is about addressing the fear and anxiety that drives the need to control. It's about understanding that control is not love, and that true intimacy and connection come from vulnerability, not domination. Therapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can help the controller identify the thought patterns that fuel their need for control. It can teach them healthier coping mechanisms, such as emotional regulation and mindfulness, which can reduce the compulsion to control others. Therapy also helps build empathy, not just for the partner, but for themselves. It helps the controller learn that it's okay to be vulnerable and that true love isn't about protection through control, but about emotional connection through trust. The healing journey for both partners involves forgiveness, forgiving the other person, and forgiving yourself. For the controller, this might mean forgiving yourself for the damage caused by your actions, acknowledging that you were trying to protect yourself in unhealthy ways. For the person who has been controlled, it might mean forgiving yourself for allowing the behavior to continue, realizing that it wasn't your fault and that you are worthy of love and respect. Forgiveness does not mean excusing behavior. It means letting go of the emotional weight that keeps you stuck in the past. Healing is not linear, will come with setbacks, emotional flashbacks, and moments of doubt. But through consistent self-care, therapy, and a commitment to emotional growth, healing is possible. Both partners can emerge from this journey with a deeper understanding of themselves, each other, and what it means to have a healthy, balanced relationship. When professional help is critical, while personal efforts, setting boundaries, and emotional work are crucial for healing from controlling behaviors in relationships. There are moments when professional help becomes absolutely necessary. No matter how hard you try or how much love and good intentions are involved, some issues are simply too deep to resolve without the guidance of a trained therapist. When it feels like the emotional damage is overwhelming or the behavior is escalating, therapy offers the expertise needed to untangle these complex dynamics and heal. One of the most critical times to seek professional help is when emotional manipulation has crossed into emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can often start subtly, as small, controlling behaviors that may go unnoticed by both partners at first. But over time, these behaviors build up, causing one partner to lose confidence, autonomy, and even their sense of self. When these patterns become entrenched, the mental and emotional toll on the controlled partner can be devastating, leading to feelings of worthlessness, anxiety, and depression. If you're in a relationship where emotional manipulation has escalated to emotional abuse, professional help is not optional, it's essential. For the controlling partner, therapy is critical when their need to control comes from deep-seated insecurities, attachment issues, or past trauma. Many controlling individuals are not consciously trying to harm their partners. Instead, they are often acting out of fear of abandonment, fear of losing love, or fear of chaos and unpredictability. This anxiety may stem from childhood neglect, inconsistent caregiving, or early experiences where they were forced to fend for themselves emotionally. Therapy can help uncover the roots of these fears and offer healthier ways to cope with them. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) is particularly effective for the controller, as it helps them identify and challenge the thought patterns that fuel their controlling tendencies. Another indicator that professional help is needed is when communication has completely broken down. In many cases of controlling relationships, there comes a point where both partners stop talking openly, or worse, avoid each other altogether. The controller may use silence, threats, or withdrawal as tools of manipulation, while the controlled partner becomes too fearful to express their true feelings. This creates an emotional stalemate where no one's needs are being met and no real connection exists. A therapist can facilitate these difficult conversations and help both partners learn healthy communication strategies. When a relationship reaches the point where one or both partners feel isolated, anxious, or emotionally overwhelmed by the dynamic, professional intervention is crucial. Therapy can provide a safe space for each partner to express their feelings without judgment or fear of retaliation. It can help both individuals understand their emotional responses and build the emotional resilience needed to support a healthier relationship. If either partner is experiencing physical symptoms related to the stress of controlling dynamics like chronic fatigue, insomnia, headaches, or digestive problems, therapy is an essential step. These symptoms are often physical manifestations of emotional strain, and professional guidance can help both partners learn to manage their stress and reduce the toll it takes on their bodies. Trauma-informed therapy in particular is helpful in cases where controlling behavior is rooted in deep emotional wounds, such as past abuse, abandonment, or neglect. Couples therapy also plays an important role when both partners are willing to heal together. Even if one partner has been controlling, couples therapy provides a platform for both individuals to learn how to interact in healthier ways. Approaches like emotionally focused therapy, EFT, and the Gottman method can guide couples through deep emotional work, helping them understand the underlying emotional needs that drive their behavior and fostering more secure, empathetic connections.